birds. Hi, homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. My name is Jennifer. Welcome to Miles Away Farm. I thought I would do a different kind of unboxing video today. This is unboxing baby chicks. And if you're not familiar, baby chicks are born with all of the food from the yolk of the egg, and they can survive 24 hours or a little bit longer without any additional food or water because they still have all those nutrients from that yolk. And so these guys were shipped yesterday morning. So the room I am in right now is an old horse stall. It is enclosed and has a door. We do not have rat issues, and if you have an area where you have rat issues, you need much more security than what I have here. And what we have here is these are meat birds. These guys are going to go to freezer camp in 8 weeks. So they will go from this tiny little day-old chick to an 8-week-old ready to butcher chicken in 8 weeks. It's incredible how fast they grow, but much better quality of meat when it's something you're growing yourself as opposed to the confined feeding operations that you find in commercial operations. And then these guys, these are egg layers, and they have been sexed, and so everybody in here should be female, possibly with one exception. I can't remember if I ordered one male or not. I often order one rooster a year. And this is an old stock tank that is leaky and doesn't really work anymore. It makes a very nice brooder for the first couple of weeks. This is way too small for this number of birds for any kind of long term. But what I'm trying to do here, these guys will grow up and be big enough to go outside. They'll have some shelter, but we'll move them into an outdoor chicken tractor when they're about 2 weeks old. And these guys will grow up and be big enough that they can have the run of this entire room and not just this stock tank in about 2 weeks. I also have in the same room right now 6 baby ducks and about 20 baby chicks that I hatched out from an incubator about 3 weeks ago now. And so there's some older birds in this room already. And so I want to keep these guys separate just because they're going to get completely overrun if they are let free right away. This is the bottom of a planter. I like to do that to put the water on so that it's up just a little bit from the floor. It keeps it from getting full of so much shavings. As they get older, I change out to a different watering system, but this is what I'm going to use for right now. You can also buy watering systems that hang, and I don't have one of those, but those are really nice because you can adjust the height, and then the birds aren't constantly kicking bedding into the water where you have to clean it out constantly. So that's something that I would like to purchase and that I don't have right now. I'm going to go fill up the water, and then I'll let these guys out because we want to give them a drink when we let them go. All right, so we've got our water. And with brand new baby chicks like this, I like to have the water quite warm. So about 100 degrees, which is about the temperature they need to be brooding under. 100 degrees is not going to shock their little systems. These guys are babies, and really cold water out of the tap is going to be a big shock to them. So what I'm going to do is each bird, if you're holding birds, and this is true of little birds that you might find that have fallen out of the nest as well, if you put their neck between your fingers, like right here, you can hold them very comfortably where they're stabilized, and you're not going to hurt them, but they're also not going to hurt themselves by struggling. So this is a good way to hold a bird. And this is just something you do to help them know where the water is because they're thirsty. They've been on a big journey. I think I got that guy. These guys come from Dunlap Hatchery, which is in Idaho. It's not terribly far from me. I know a lot of people like to order from Murray McMurray Hatchery, and they're awesome. But they're a very, very long way from me. And so if I were to order birds from them, there's pretty much no way that they wouldn't be in transit for 2 days. 2 days is a really long time for baby birds to be without any food or water. And you end up often losing a larger percentage of them in the first couple of days that you have them, simply because they've been really, really stressed by the trip. I am going to fix this. This is not quite as level as it should be. And so it's threatening to spill. And the last thing you want is wet baby birds. And they have these guys separated right now so that I could keep track of who is who. But they're going to be really obvious who is who very quickly. And so I'm not too worried about mixing everybody together here, because the meat birds are going to grow much, much faster than the egg birds are. I can't remember the varieties of the egg birds that I ordered. I tend to alternate every 3 years between Rhode Island Reds, Black Sex-linked, and Gold Sex-linked. I'm guessing these little yellow guys are the Gold Sex-links. And then I like to throw in a few just fun additional breeds. I always look for what breeds have got really good egg laying. I don't want a bird that only lays 150 eggs a year. Some of the prettiest, fanciest heritage breeds are really fun, but they only lay 150 eggs a year. I also don't necessarily want birds that are going to go what's called broody, which is when they really want to sit on an egg. The problem with broody birds is usually you're not set up well for them, and so all the other birds are continuing to lay eggs in that same nest that the broody bird is in. And so you have eggs that are 1 day old, you have eggs that are 5 days old, unless you're in there collecting them every day. And then the broody mama completely stops laying eggs while she's broody. And so she will take herself completely out of egg production, sometimes for the entire summer. I ordered Coco Morans one time because they lay these really beautiful dark chocolate eggs. And every one of them went broody for the entire summer. I had 6 of them, and they didn't lay an egg for 3 months. It was maddening. And so I will never raise Coco Morans again, simply because they are way too broody for my situation. I don't want a bird that's that broody. I have successfully had mamas raise up chicks, but you really need to put them in a dog crate or some place where they're separate from their fellow hens, because otherwise you just keep getting other hens laying eggs in the nest. And then when the babies hatch, they tend to get lost in the crowd of all the other birds. It's kind of a mess. So it's really fun to have broody birds, and it's a good homestead security to have broody birds, because then you can have new birds coming in that you didn't have to pay for. But it is tricky to pull off well. I think these little guys are probably silver-laced Wyandottes. So I really love that breed, and I order a few of those guys every year. Come here, baby. Last one. There you go. Everybody get some drink. And I love how their instincts, they immediately know to drink. It's just something that they're not at all confused about. And so they will get in there and get a drink very, very quickly, which is great, because that's what you want. Food-wise, I do like to feed medicated food to the birds if I've gotten them mail order for the first week or so. Medicated food does not mean antibiotic food. It just means it's treated with something that helps them with coccidiosis, which is a really common, I think it's a bacteria that is just in the environment everywhere. And they're very susceptible to it when they're really young like this, and it helps them combat that. I find that the stress of shipping often makes them less hardy, and that they do better if they're on medicated food for the first week in terms of not just suddenly dying. If I have hatched out my own eggs from an incubator, I don't find the medicated food is necessary because they don't have nearly the stress level, and so their immune systems are more functional right off the bat. You want your temperature with your baby chicks to be about 100 degrees. I have a heat lamp here, so 100 degrees at the level of the chick, and that's what they would be experiencing if they were underneath their mama. If they are really bunched up, that means they're too cold. If they're super spread out and a long way away from the light, that means it's too hot. And so you can pretty easily tell how they're doing just by that. I have these heat lamps. I'll show you guys in a minute. I have these heat lamps on a wire that I can raise and lower them so that I can raise this. See, this is what you don't want. See how this bird is in the water? That's not great. And I did have one meat bird last year who got wet and proceeded to get cold and die. He just committed suicide basically within 24 hours. So he was dead the next day, and it was because he got wet. So they're not the brightest bulbs in the box sometimes, but they're doing their best. Oh, good birds, good birds. The other thing you want to watch for with mail order chicks, and I never see this when I incubate my own eggs, because again, less stress, is something called pasty butt. And basically it's when they poop and it sticks to their back end, it doesn't fall away. And eventually it just creates this very hard plug that's like a scab. And they essentially can't defecate. They can't go to the bathroom because their back end is all plugged up. And so you want to very gently and very carefully wash that off with some warm water in a sink, kind of holding the bird backwards from the way I showed you so that you're holding onto the bird. You try to keep the bird itself as dry as possible while you're doing it, but clean that back end off and then just put them back in. They usually only show it for the first week to a week and a half, and after that they're fine. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen pretty quickly, and it is something that does seem to be directly related to the stress of them traveling, because I never ever see it in birds that I've hatched out myself. Good job, babies. Yeah, look how cute you are. Let me see, I've got the packing slip. I'm going to look and see what I actually ordered. I can't remember. I ordered these guys months ago. So I do have one rooster in here. It's a barred Plymouth Rock cockerel. So barred Plymouth Rock boy, basically, or rooster. Barred Rocks are the parent species for some of the sex-linked hybrids. And so I know that if I have a baby daddy that is that, it's still going to give me some really good egg laying from no matter who he breeds with. And so if I hatch out my own eggs, which I did some of this year, I want my baby daddy to be a good solid egg layer. I got 3 Australian white pullets. I think those are new to me. I've never done those before. Must have been in a mood. 3 of the silver-laced Wyandottes, and 3 that are just marked as assorted chicken pullets. Maybe I just left it up to them because I wanted some variety. While I like a flock that is a really good egg-laying flock, I also like the beauty of the birds, and so I will throw in a few Ancanas / Easter eggers, or a few just pretty birds where I've got enough egg laying that I don't need to worry about it if I've got a few that aren't laying a super ton of birds. Again, not fans of big broody birds, and those will often end up in a stew pot. But the assorted is, I'm sure what I was thinking is just, it's always fun to have some variety of some different kinds of birds. But I gotta tell you, I have been raising chickens. I think I got my first flock of my own chickens in probably 2001. So I've been doing this for a lot of years, and it never gets old. This is just always so fun. Baby chicks are the best. I don't handle my birds a lot. Some people, you can tame down chickens and have them be super friendly. Because we sometimes eat our birds, I don't want to be super attached to them. And so I don't spend a huge amount of time snuggling and handling them. That's just a personal choice. It's way too hard to butcher them if you become friends with them. And I do have a few in my big flock that are just going to get to live here until old age, because I'm very fond of them and I couldn't bring myself to eat them. There's definitely some yellow birds that have a tiny bit of black on them. So like that one's got a black spot on his butt. I'm seeing lots of speckles. So I'm not sure what that's about. We'll see what you guys turn into. I will often just put an open tray of food in for the first day because they don't really know where the food is, but they'll figure it out. I do have this lid that I'm going to set down so they can get in there and peck around. And when they're this age, it always seems like the food is too big for them to even eat. And everybody does just fine. There you go. Yeah, eat between your brother's feet. That's the way to go. Just the fact that I have some over on this side, away from the heat lamp, is a pretty good indication that they're pretty comfortable right now. But I'll check on these guys 2 or 3 times today, just to make sure that nobody's gotten wet, nobody's doing anything stupid, and that nobody seems like they're too hot or too cold. Welcome to the farm, babies. So this is the rest of the flock. So you can see our 3-week-old ducks, which are gigantic because ducks grow incredibly fast. By the time those guys are 6 weeks old, you will hardly be able to tell that they're not adults. And then buried in that corner, because they're all a little scared of me right now, are all the birds that I hatched out from eggs from my own flock on the 19th of April. And these guys, I think I'm going to raise them up to 6 weeks and then sell them for the most part. Because a lot of people don't have the setup for the brooder and the heat lamps and the feeders and all that stuff. But once they get to be 6 weeks of age, they're able to thermoregulate. They've got all their feathers. And if you have just a small backyard coop, you can start them there. And so people will sometimes pay more or be grateful to have birds that are already past the brooding phase so that they can just start their own little backyard flock. Good babies. All right. And then out here, very curious about what the heck I'm doing, is my older flock of birds. And I use zip ties on their legs as a leg band. And I do a different color each year so that I can easily tell the blue from the green from the red and know which ones are the older birds and which ones are the younger birds. Older birds, their egg production goes way down. And because I have a large flock, it's very hard to keep track of who's laying well and who's not, just by the bird alone, because I have about 40 birds, and so it's hard to keep track of who's doing what. There's a silver laced Wyandotte over there. They're so pretty. This black one on the left is a black star, excellent egg layer. That is a speckled Sussex, the black and white one. And then the brown one here in front is the gold sex-linked. So those are all good egg layers. Thanks for watching, tribe. We'll see you next time, and I'll give you an update.